For our chalice lighting this morning, Bill asked if there was a reading that held any particular significance for me, and the words he read are very dear to my heart. This flame affirms the light of truth, the warmth of community, the fire of commitment. May the light we now kindle inspire us to use our powers to heal and not to harm, to help and not to hinder, to bless and not to curse, to serve you, Spirit of freedom. I know these words because they were the chalice lighting that we said every Sunday morning in the congregation where I grew up, the Abraham Lincoln Unitarian Universalist Fellowship in Springfield, Illinois. The children were the ones who lit the chalice and led the congregation in saying these words, so I ended up memorizing them. I can remember a day many years ago when I was attending religious education at this fellowship. We were talking about ideas of God. The teacher invited us all to draw a picture of what we thought God looked like. I remember the teacher drew a picture of a forest and said he saw God in nature. On my paper, I drew a giant question mark. I had no idea if there even was a God, let alone what God might look like. Nobody had ever explained this to me. As a kid, I liked very clear answers and explanations, but I didn't get any on this question. In the humanist-oriented fellowship our family attended, there was very little discussion of God. It just wasn't something that was a major part of our religious life. And when you think about that, it's kind of strange. I quickly learned to define myself as agnostic as a young age, and for many years of life, I kind of waffled back and forth between agnosticism and atheism. But even though this whole God concept was pretty fuzzy, there was a lot that was clear to me in that Unitarian Universalist community. I learned it's important for every person to ask questions and find meaning in their own life. I learned that religious community is a place where we care for one another and support one another. And I learned that when we see injustice and intolerance in our communities, it's our responsibility to address them and to help make the world a better place. When I was a young adult, I found myself looking for something more in my spiritual life. I was grateful for all that I had received growing up as a Unitarian Universalist. I found myself seeking more spiritual depth, though. I started looking for a sense of connection to something holy, to something sacred, to something beyond myself. What I found is that once I acknowledged this yearning within myself, suddenly opportunities to experience the holy for me started to show up in different ways. I started to feel a connection to Divine Spirit in the most ordinary of moments, singing hymns together with other people, snuggling with my cat, and standing on the sand on Ocean Beach, looking out at the waves. And at some of the most challenging moments in my life, I found I could connect with this sacred presence as a source of guidance and of healing. I know that I am not alone in the experience of seeking greater spiritual depth. My journey is similar to many young adults in this movement who are also seeking and opening to the possibility of encountering Spirit in their life. At a recent New-to-UU class here in this congregation, where the ministers offer an introduction to Unitarian Universalism and to this congregation, I actually gained a new perspective about how this faith has supported me on this journey. Part of the class involved sharing about our own religious upbringing and beliefs. So I was explaining to the people in my small group how I grew up UU and identified as agnostic, and then how over time I started to believe in my own understanding and experience of the presence of God. One person observed that I didn't actually need to leave Unitarian Universalism once I had this shift in my beliefs. It was true. Even though my understanding of the divine had changed so dramatically, I didn't feel a need to explore another religion. This helped me see this denomination through a new lens, and I gained a newfound appreciation for being raised Unitarian Universalist, because not only is this faith movement able to hold the diversity of all of our beliefs, it is also able to hold us as our own beliefs change and develop and morph over time. This faith is strong enough to hold us in the midst of changes, but flexible to allow for our own growth and transformation within the embrace of our religious community. In Unitarian Universalism, there are lots of ways to explore your own spiritual path. Many find inspiration in earth-centered rituals that honor our connection to nature and the rhythms of the seasons. Others find meaning in humanist teachings that encourage ethical living and the importance of working towards the greater good of humanity. Regardless of one's individual beliefs, there are spaces to explore these perspectives in community with other seekers. Where do you seek out meaning and depth in your spiritual life? How are you supported? How are you challenged on your spiritual path? As Unitarian Universalists, our commitment to encouraging each other on our spiritual journeys allows us the gift to explore our connection to the sacred, or that which is most important in our life, with freedom, with creativity, and with imagination. Our theological diversity is one of our gifts as a religious movement. For each one of us, our way of understanding the world is experienced by so many things, by our culture, our memories, our experiences, even our gender, and so much more. Considering how much diversity there is in humanity, thank goodness we have a faith tradition where each person can seek and name the deepest truth of their life in a way that is meaningful and beautiful to them. And thank goodness we can then come together from our diversity and worship in one body, each bringing our own perspective to enrich the whole. Our diversity is a gift. It's also a bit of a challenge. We bring so many beliefs together into one place. What is it that holds us together, that connects us as Unitarian Universalists? Where can we all find common ground? This is a pretty big question. I've wrestled some with how to answer it, and I don't have the final answer. But I hope that in the asking, we might come to a deeper understanding of this complex faith movement. In reflecting on where we can find common ground, I keep coming back to three themes. They are the search for truth, the community of love, and the quest for justice. These are the threads I see running through Unitarian Universalism, holding us together in our diversity. In our communities, we covenant together to search for truth and meaning. Although we come with diverse beliefs, what ties us together is a commitment to the search and the journey. We are a community of seekers and of questioners. The Commission on Appraisal is a committee of the Unitarian Universalist Association that is tasked with reviewing an aspect of the denomination to encourage reflection and energize this movement. They published a document called Engaging Our Theological Diversity, where they asked what holds us together as Unitarian Universalists. They wrote, "We claim a vision of religious community that protects and respects individual freedom, fosters acceptance, and supports an active quest for greater understanding and deeper meaning." I saw this vision in action so many ways this year. In a class I taught earlier on immigration, I saw a small group of people coming together to gain a deeper understanding of the immigration issue and to explore how their own religious values informed their response to this issue. I can tell you from experience, those are not easy questions to grapple with. They're really difficult. But this group was so committed to learning, to understanding, and to putting their beliefs into action in the world. In the minister's class on the Jewish and Christian scriptures, I have been so impressed by the participants' willingness to engage with these sacred texts, to read them in a new light, to be open to new interpretations and new understandings. In the class, everybody brought their own experiences and their own perspective, and the group as a whole was enriched in the process. Of course, Unitarian Universalists disagree about so many things, but our willingness to question and to explore and to learn holds us together. The second theme I see connecting UUs is the community of love. Throughout my own journey of exploring my beliefs about God and the holy, the thing that remained constant was that I always had a supportive Unitarian Universalist community, a place where I could share the truth of my life and know that it would be held with love. Our congregations are places where we care for one another, support one another through difficult moments, we celebrate joys and new beginnings together, and we mourn our losses together. This year, I have really seen how the members of this community care for one another. I have seen you offering food to those who are sick, offering help to those moving from one home to another, sharing rides to committee meetings and justice events. I've seen connections made and friendships formed at community dinners, at coffee hour, at dances, and more. It has been a blessing to be a part of this community of love and to really see this love in action. The beloved community holds us together in our diversity, honoring the contributions of every person and grounding us in our faith. And the final theme that I see connecting Unitarian Universalists is the quest for justice. In the words of the Commission on Appraisal, we are committed to religious community as a place where we work together for a more just and compassionate world. It is not enough to gather in a safe, supportive sanctuary for ourselves alone. We must be visible and present to those who need us. Here in this congregation, I have seen the many ways this community engages in service and justice work. During winter nights, members and friends work to offer shelter and food, and maybe most importantly, genuine human connection to people who are struggling economically in our communities. In February, many of us witnessed for marriage equality on Valentine's Day, calling for the civil rights of all couples to be protected in our state. And recently, I had the pleasure of taking the train to Sacramento with 6 other MDUUC members to lobby for legislation that would protect the rights and dignity of immigrants in California. Unitarian Universalists believe in witnessing for our values in the world. Our commitment to service and justice connects us as a movement. These 3 threads, the search for truth, the community of love, and the quest for justice, connect us to one another and hold us together in our diversity. This diversity enriches our experience of worship, of religious education, even of committee meetings. And in community and working for justice connect us not only to one another here, but to a larger movement in the world. I am grateful to Unitarian Universalism for offering me a space to seek out my own truth while being a part of a loving faith community. And I am grateful to this community for the ways in which you live out your Unitarian Universalist values here in this community and in the wider world. You really give me hope for the future and the potential of this movement. Our diversity gives our religion life, creativity, and imagination. We each bring our own unique perspective to this faith, to our search for meaning, and our quest for justice. When we each bring our whole self to share in community, we can be transformed in the process. May we each find the beauty and depth of our own spiritual path, and may our coming together enrich our own lives and the movement of Unitarian Universalism in our world. May it be so.
Stand right over here. We'd like to invite the internship committee forward. Internship committee. You need to move over. Please let them.